Dr. Victor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
Would you be able to kind of describe and define what edutainment is for our audiences and how that applies to the work that you do with the World Bank?
Sure. So we use the definition of edutainment in its very broad sense. It's the use of entertainment media, from soap operas to video games, right, to social influencer campaigns in reshaping attitudes and promoting behavior change for development objectives, right? This could be like the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. I work in the research department where we produce impact evaluations, causal analysis, basically the same statistical logic of clinical trials, where the goal is to measure what's the causal effect, how much did take up or how effective was, let's say, a program in improving an outcome. So the effect can be fully attributed to the program, right? So it's not correlation or contribution or other more correlational qualitative research. It's causal impact evaluation research. And there we're working with foundations like MTV's, Discovery, Facebook's, in addition to governments, development agencies like the World Bank, bilaterals like USAID, across a series of sectors, from HIV to gender-based violence to education, girl education, social cohesion, across different modes, television, social media, apps, with a goal to improve development outcomes. This research, its primary goal is to make the business case, right? That edutainment should be taken very seriously, both from the public and the private sectors. Often the private sector produces something that is not very educational, very engaging, but not very educational. And the public sector produces stuff that is very educational, but no one wants to watch, right? Therefore, ineffective. Especially it's social behavior change communication that, are produced by folks often that do not know how to reach the hearts and minds of people. So there's this important collaboration between storytellers, professional storytellers who know how to reach the hearts and minds, with researchers and development practitioners and government officials to scale up this edutainment across different sectors.
So fascinating, Dr. Victor, to hear about your research on behavior change, and the entertainment education is so fascinating because it incorporates so many different types of technology, like you mentioned. So can you share an example where edutainment effectively influenced societal attitudes or behaviors, and what lessons can be drawn from that success?
So promoting safer sexual behaviors in developing countries has been very difficult, right? We can throw a bunch of campaigns, but promoting, condom use is really, really tough. Assuming even if the condoms are available, for example, right? So changing, attitudes and most importantly, behaviors, really tough. So several years ago, the Gates Foundation provided a grant for us to work with MTV Staying Alive Foundation, a foundation of MTV, to evaluate a very popular TV show called MTV Shuga. They basically work with the top talent of Africa, many of them already jumping towards LA and other international markets like Lupita Nyong'o. And this show is like Friends, right? Young people trying to make it in the big cities of Africa, Nairobi, Lagos. So lots of sex and rock and roll, right? But they embed educational messages in these soap operas. So they can attract eyeballs, right? But at the same time, hide well the messages, because no one wants to be preached at. No one wants to, watch this boring educational stuff otherwise. And through this randomized control trial, where we surveyed and tested over 5,000 youth and randomized to treatment and control, we find that 8 to 10 months after simply watching the third season of MTV Shuga, which lasted a total of 3 hours, We did not provide additional information, no other complementary intervention. We found that those in the treatment group, those that watched this TV drama, were twice as likely to get tested for HIV and were half as likely than the control group to test positive for chlamydia, common STD. Both of these indicators are objective measures, not self-reported. Objective measures of behavior change. We also saw improvements in knowledge, attitudes towards HIV positive people, a reduction by half on gender-based violence. So this is pure causal evidence, experimental evidence, showing that 8 to 10 months after simply watching this season, individuals' attitudes and behavior substantially improve, making this intervention one of the most cost-effective interventions to prevent HIV. And we have several more studies like that, but this is, I think, a very good example.
That's so fascinating. So, in your view, how can entertainment media serve as a strategic tool in advancing the sustainable development goals, particularly in areas such as gender equality and environmental sustainability?
It's back to my earlier comment about we need to build a bridge to systematically collaborate. There's a lot of one-offs out there, right? A lot of celebrities that support some campaigns, the development sector also working with these media firms. I described this MTV Sugar intervention, right? And there's more. But the world right now is facing multiple crises, right? We're talking about, we're hit by COVID, climate change is already here. Sadly, societies are being fragmented and radicalizing, and democracy is at risk in many, many countries. So we need scalable solutions that speak to the hearts and minds of people, right? So I think these forums are very useful, right? To build that partnerships. We brought Ms. Sharon Stone and other celebrities to discuss this evidence and see how best can we scale up this collaboration. So I think that's something very much needed. Another thing we could do is learning a lot from what the US has done, especially in terms of think tanks that could accelerate the incorporation of positive messages into mainstream entertainment media. I'm thinking, for example, the Hollywood Health and Society program at the University of Southern California, that while they're doing some fact checking on the scripts of all sorts of movies and TV shows, asked by the producers of these programs, they also make suggestions, right? On, hey, why don't you incorporate a funny storyline here? For example, when in this Friends episode where Joey learned that condoms were only 97% effective, that day, the US CDC hotline for HIV received the largest number of phone calls. That 30-second part of the show was not in the original script. That was something that Hollywood Health and Society had proposed. So I think, the developing world has a lot to learn, and partnerships and investments in scaling up more Hollywood Health and Societies is very important. And related to that point, learning more about the media landscapes in multiple countries. Content analysis in the US, for example, what youth consume around sex in mass media, let's say divided into positive and negative messages, overwhelmingly show that the negative effects, way over 90%, dominate, right? Extrapolating from these findings, I can imagine in many other big markets, I'm thinking Nigeria, Kenya, India, Mexico, would have similar issues. So how can we start changing that, right? From those really bad, negative messaging that these media landscapes are showing into more positive ones. And for that, I think data research is important, but most importantly, willingness from folks that are producing, distributing, could be a game changer. And hopefully, as the world is facing so many crises, there's an opportunity for champions to help produce more and more edutainment across the world.
How do you think organizations like Power Women can partner or work with Dime World Bank to access resources and opportunities to further their mission?
So these partners often have portfolios of social and behavior change communications. But I think the professional script writers, songwriters like yourself, can make a big contribution in this space of social and behavior change communications, right? Because there is a strong need to professionalize so many of these campaigns, these public sector campaigns. And there, I think, is a good entry point. Of course, financing always helps. So, donors like the Gates Foundation have been quite the champions in this space, where they, support non-traditional government budget items to do research, to support productions like soap operas, like the NTV Sugar, right? Like, it's hard to see a government, even though increasingly they start investing in educational, let's say, TV dramas. I think we still need these champions like the Gates Foundation and other foundations, or celebrities themselves. Lending already their face can make a huge difference for a lot of these social influencers, social media campaigns. There's a lot of really great research showing that they can make a big difference in promoting attitudes and behavior change at global scale.
Thank you so much, Dr. Victor, for your wonderful insight and all the contributions that you've done, and encourage people to take edutainment more seriously and understand its significance.